All right, hello, and thanks for joining. Thanks for joining us for political talk on another PolitiPod Live. I'm Tom Bickle,
And I'm Matt Nisanoff.
here to
Welcome to the
discuss.
show.
Welcome. We're here to discuss current political events and sort them all out. By the end of the show, I'm sure we'll have it all figured out. It's another week, Matt. How's it going?
Well, it is, as the couple of shows and the couple of weeks before, still quite a circus going on the federal level of government and what's happening in the country. And let's talk about it.
Absolutely. I'm here for it.
Well, we can start off with the obvious, which is the shutdown of the government that's happened. This is far from the first one that's happened, of course, and certainly far from the last one. I expect we'll see. But this one has a weird sort of twist in that the other ones were two sides trying to work out or not being able to work out issues of policy and trying to get an edge in the shutdown so that they can move things forward their way. This one's slightly different in that we have an insurrectionist as the president and who claims he's going to use it to continue his program 2025 agenda. So there he is on the TV saying, hey, guess what? There's a government shutdown, so I'm going to fire federal employees. Well, you already did that. And we know that you've done it for your, following your prescription of what you want to see done. So it's nothing new. You're doing what you're going to do anyway. You may use this as an excuse, but you're not actually doing it. It's not happening because there's some sort of, change in policy that's now allowing you to start doing this. You're just doing the same thing and just using an excuse to justify it. And the other side is the Democrats, who are that their part in this shutdown is they're saying they want to see health care for millions of Americans. And somehow that is extremist terrorist, the horribleness of the Democrats trying to do such a crazy thing, such as allowing people to have health care. So there's the two sides of it. I know last week, and it's been 2 years since October 1st that the shutdown occurred, is when it occurred. So it's been, we're getting on to, I should say, the beginning of the second week. We'll see how long it goes on. At the end of the show, I believe you asked me, how long do you think it will go on? I said a long time, and I expect it will be a long time. There have been, of the government shutdowns that occurred before, there's certainly a precedent for more than several days, maybe a couple of weeks. We'll see how this one plays out. But the problem is the two sides are, the Republicans don't have any reason to capitulate. They started it. They're in power. They're the ones who have the upper hand. And they don't care. They don't care that people are not going to get health care because of this. They don't care that government services have stopped because for 40 years, they've been vilifying government services. For 40 years, they've been trying to get into the position to be able to use an excuse to pursue their Project 2025 agenda, which has been rewritten for 2 or 3 decades. It's been there on the shelf, but and they've rewritten it to keep it updated. But they've always wanted to do these sort of things. So what is their what would jumpstart them into wanting to see the government restart again when their desperation is to dismantle the government, to drown it in the tub, I believe was Newt Gingrich's expression, get it so small that you could drown it in the tub. So where's the impetus for them to make a rational decision?
Absolutely. We talked about this last week, and I had said a similar thing about the not so veiled threat of, well, we're gonna, if you go through with this shutdown, then we'll have the power to just lay off hordes of people out of the federal government. And I said at that time, You're already doing it. Not that you just already can do it anyway, but you're going to do it. You've done it already, and it seemed like, yeah, it's a threat, but you're going to do it anyway. So there's no, like you say, impetus to do what you're being pushed to do, because the punishment is the same either way. And they're terrible at threats, apparently. And I didn't know that. I don't really. I felt like I had said that into an uncertain world, and so to hear you say it this week, I didn't. I want to say I didn't think I was that convincing, but look at me go. uh,
Exactly.
so that was the first thing I thought. Yeah, they can't. You can't threaten someone with something you're like. If you're just beating them, and then you tell them, if you don't act right, I'm going to beat you. Anyway, uh, what else was there? You talk about the Republicans not having a reason to capitulate, and I think you're right in this first week or so. You're right, but I think it's going to change. I feel like both sides are feeling pretty. Both sides are feeling pretty bullish about this whole shutdown thing. Everybody's feeling pretty macho, and I feel like the lefties. Uh, I feel like if I may say, we have a good reason, because the government's being used to destroy itself. If you can stop that, good. But also, anyway, there's any number of reasons, but basically the healthcare, for one thing, is, I mean, there's any number of reasons to dig in your heels and make as much trouble as you possibly can to disrupt what's going on, because what's going on is horrifying on any number of levels. But healthcare going, like, doubling or quadrupling in people's costs, already an outrageous amount. Already we're being just drained dry by this industry. It's unnecessarily expensive. It finds ways to pay itself 6 times with your money, before you're done. That system is going to get more expensive, but exponentially more expensive by a factor of 2, of 4. I've seen some estimates, or not estimates, but here's your bill coming next month. Real quotes. Anyway, and so if there's anything worth going to the mat for, I suppose it's that. And it's my sense that, so I feel like that Democrats seem to have a principle, but a practical principle, one where the rubber actually meets the road, and it's worth throwing yourself on the barbed wire for. And I feel like Republicans have the same FU principle they've had the whole time. They're just going to burn it all down and laugh at you while you cry at them about it. Which, yeah, it makes diplomacy difficult. Anyway, and I feel like both sides feeling pretty starchy about it. But at the outset, the Republicans have been, I think, taken the worst side of it as far as public blame overall. I feel like polls have borne this out, that it's not going well for them. They don't seem to care. They have embraced Confederacy. They've embraced Nazism. They've embraced, the opposite of anything that's healthy and good about this country. And they seem to be walking around fine with it. At least they seem to think so. And hey, that hasn't even slowed them down as far as I can tell. But I think it's going to change. And it harkens back to something else we also talked about in recent shows, is that people change their minds when it actually splashes up on their shoes, when the practical effects become practical and not theoretical. And they're happening to you, not somebody you thought they would happen to, but not you. People start to change their minds when it affects their pocketbook, when it affects their daily life. You know what I mean?
Well, and when there's you're absolutely right. What most often happens is when somebody, when their followers start to feel the pain, then they start to get their start working on getting attention onto it, and all of a sudden, with the tariff thing, all of a sudden the farmers are feeling pain, as you mentioned. But all of a sudden, Trump is, oh, well, we've got to do a bailout for the farmers. He says he's going to go after the um, there were certain service workers earlier on in the tariff war that went to him and said, "Look, you're you're
Killing it.
screwing us. We
Yeah.
need to be able to do our job, and we can't do that because the tariffs are driving the costs up." And he came out, oh right, I didn't the farm workers. Oh yeah. Oh, I meant we have to have these skilled laborers in the fields, and so we need to change our thinking a little bit about this. Um,
I remember seeing
and,
that, but didn't he just double back on that and screw him anyway? I don't
oh yeah,
know that they got any relief.
oh yeah. Well, he right. I mean, he's going to double back and screw everybody because that's what he does. I mean, he
In the
winds up
fullness of
taking
time.
both sides. Yeah, he ends up taking both sides of every issue, or at least making a statement on both sides of every issue. So as it goes through its process and as as it resolves, he can then say, "Well, I was the hero all along.
Right.
I was the one who was really behind the COVID vaccine. No, I hate that. Oh, isn't there a way you can just shove a light up in there and it will evaporate it?" And
Right.
so
Little bleach,
well,
ivermectin.
yeah, back and forth. So yeah, I mean it's when he had, but when they start complaining to him is when he realizes it it's I think there's a thing in that movement where if it doesn't happen to them personally, they can't understand why it's a problem.
Right.
So when before the farmers felt some pain and before their workers started disappearing because they were afraid to show up to work. Before that, they were like, "Yeah, well, of course, this all makes sense. This is a tariff, sure, no problem. Let's just do it."
Yeah.
And then after that, they were like, "Oh gosh, this is not working out for me. So now this is a problem." And I think you can do that with numerous issues, and we'll see what actually comes of it. As you say, is there going to be an end point? Is there's going to be an end to it at some point? There has to be, but it's going to be only after a time where there's enough pain for real people in real pain. People are going to die because they don't have health care insurance and they can't get into the system or however, it's not until people are actually harmed that somebody comes along and says something that gets his attention. If a rich person has a problem getting into a hospital over health care, that will grab his attention and he'll all of a sudden realize that there's something that needs to be done about it. So, how long can we go without a government? We're going to have to let somebody's going to have to get themselves in harm's way before he can bother himself to do anything differently.
Yeah. And what about, I mean, speaking of pain, what about these federal workers? A week ahead of time, when we were foreseeing this shutdown, people are saying, if we shut down, one of the impacts is going to be that a lot of federal workers will have to not only work without a paycheck, but they're not going to get it later on the back end when things get, like a union contract getting worked out. Everybody gets back paid to a certain date. They're just going to eat it. That's just it. And you have to go to work. You can't go and get some local job to tide you over, wash some dishes or something to keep some money coming in. No, you have to go. You got to go TSA. You got to go do that thing that you do for the government. And you can't work somewhere else. And you can't pay your bills. And I never understood that. And anyway, I've seen Axios reported that the Trump administration has a memo arguing that they shouldn't be paid. They're going to run this up the flagpole, I guess, and say it out loud with their chest, as the kids say. I don't understand how do you listen? I don't know if you've ever stolen office supplies in your life, but now is the time. You know what I mean? You gotta make some of this back. That's a lot of Post-it notes. Anyway, have you heard about that? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that will become I would hope that will become a hot button issue that winds up being included in whatever negotiations, whatever way they resolve it, because obviously those people should have get their back pay. There's that's it's I can see where they won't, where the Trump administration will not want to do it. I can see where they will negotiate to try to not do it. Um, and
Well, why
but
not? Why not? Is there not money? Take it out of the damn ballroom. Are you kidding me? Is there no, and I don't know how they manage this. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I will go on record right now, sir, to say that I am not pro ballroom. I do not have a ball. I do not have a pro ballroom plank in my platform. But yeah, exactly. They'll focus on wasting it, the money that they can get a hold of, and doing something as ordinary, as helpful to people as providing back pay. Will have to be argued over. Will have to be a part of the negotiations, simply because they'll see, they'll add it to all the savings that they've
Right.
brought the government
Is you're
by
jibbing.
not
See,
paying people.
here's part of the problem is they've demonized federal workers so much that anything bad they do to them has now become an Uno reverse card. So any evil they pour into that evil is like a double negative and it comes out positive.
Right.
They've demonized federal workers and anybody they're about to give it to. They've made them out to be terrible. They're loafing, not hardworking. They make too much money, and so if we screw them out of some money, well, great. But at some point, when you can't get on a plane on time because there's nobody to man the tower, or when your constituents are thousands of federal workers across your state and they come banging on your door, they're going to find out different. But it's going to have to impact them specifically. Now, they're not Democrats, so I guess they can't count on somebody burning their fucking house to the ground. Sorry for that little bit of French I speak. But
No, but
nobody. I mean,
yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the just like crimes against the um, just like the crimes against hold on for 1 minute. I'm having
yeah, no problem.
a little
Don't
bit
worry
of a
about that. Don't worry about that swear. I'll take it out in post.
But there is that whole argument of how I'm going to have to stand up for just a second.
Roger that.
But just like with the attacks on Democratic, I apologize. I had a little bit of a power issue, and it does
Technical issues. They are what they are.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to make certain that I'm up and. But so the back to the whole thing of attacking Democratic legislators, and everybody has a big thing to say about the shooting of that guy, but they don't talk so much about the guy who went into the home of a legislator and shot her husband, and their dog, killed them all. And then there was another guy who went to the governor of Pennsylvania, I believe it was Shapiro, and tried to set his house on fire while the family was celebrating a religious holiday. And it's, that doesn't mean anything to them. So
it goes back to Paul Pelosi.
Exactly. Paul Pelosi and when Don Jr. put a picture of a hammer and some underwear on his social media and said, "Oh, this is my Halloween costume," there's a lack of humanity that's been fostered among the movement.
Yeah.
And so Where do you go with that? How do
I
you
can only
remove that?
say that I hope he gets a real, just as close to a genuine likeness to Paul Pelosi with that costume that he can. Contusions and all, fractured skull and all. I hope he really goes all out for his costume and achieves it.
Right, right.
Because it's
That's
what kind of ghoul have you become? And you know, I mean, I don't know. I find myself at a loss for words. These people are performatively awful all the time, and if it continues, you have to become like them. We talked about this
well,
last week. If you're playing a game and someone cheats, and you don't eventually start cheating, then you're at a permanent abject disadvantage. You have to cheat, and once they do it, it's not cheating anymore. It's just a new rule, and they got the advantage of getting the jump on it by doing it first. So if you don't catch up and play the same, you know, uh, game, then you're bound to lose, and it becomes cheating no longer is cheating. And anyway, I'm not sure where I was going
yes.
with this. I
So
seem to have lost my
there's
point.
there's there's a thing called the Overton window to explain it, a theory, and that is that the political scale from left to right can move back and forth. Maybe it
Sure,
used to do it a little bit and back and forth, and now it's not so much back and forth. It's all to the right, and it's been doing that for 40 years now. So we're so
agreed.
ridiculously far over into the right that the alt right that it can't it can't distinguish, it can't conceive of left. And if you're anything other than somewhere in there in that Overton window, then you're outside of the norm. You're an extreme.
Sure.
So things that were perfectly for instance, with President Obama when he set up the healthcare system, the ACA, the ideas that were the policy was based on were all the Republican ideas that the Republicans had argued for 20 years earlier, 20, 30
Wasn't it
years earlier.
the
Yeah.
Romney thing, wasn't it?
No, 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 no. The Obama.
No,
Uh,
I'm saying, but he pulled from Republican. I thought Romney had a similar plan in Massachusetts, and that was one of the talking points was that hey, it's not that lefty. It was 5 years ago. Romney thought it was the way to go, or something like that. I could be misremembering.
no, that's possible. But what I'm saying is they were actually ideas from 20 or 30 years ago that the
Hmm.
Republicans had debated against Kennedy's health care plan.
Yeah,
So that
I
it
mean
was
immigration
literally
too. The people who run around quoting Reagan, and he sounds like a big lefty. Then compared to now, when so
the
yeah,
only president the only president to publicly declare that there should be open borders was Ronald Reagan. So open borders, wow.
yeah, I know. How
You
about
know?
that?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Grandma, hide your pearls.
Yeah, where's that exactly? Where's that guy coming from? But yeah, exactly. And you mentioned the immigration issues and ICE. That leads to ICE and talking about what those guys are doing, where it's almost it's not almost, it is a paramilitary force, Proud Boys who have been given badges and let loose, and
Badges and a
Nicaragua's.
budget, and a big fat budget makes the FBI look like they can't afford the tip. Ridiculous, billions of dollars. These idiots are running around in Walmart sleeve shirts and dollar masks. They're going to give them $80 billion. They're not spending a lot on the education for the guys at the top. This is going to be a mess.
Yeah.
Anyway, please,
No,
please.
not anyway. Look, you're absolutely right. They make Nicaragua look like amateurs. This sort of the squads going out and doing what they want to do just because they want to. Their leader, as you pointed out previously, Holman, took a bribe of $50,000.
At least one bribe. Let's not pretend that was his first, last, and only.
Too true.
That guy, from what I hear, he was pretty smooth with it. After repetition, you get pretty good. He probably had a drive-through window.
And yeah, 50,000 is going to be considered sort of toy money in the very near future. So somebody got a deal.
I shudder to think of the intersection between the ineptitude of the people they've got and the just absolute avalanche of funding. We've all seen some of these videos of these ICE guys, and if there's the least bit of resistance, these guys drop their gun, Matt, and goes skittering across the parking lot. They drop their handcuffs. The person gets loose. He grabs an arm. That one gets loose. This is what cops would be like if they didn't get a day's training. These people have no training. They don't know how to. And listen, I say no training. I mean, they don't have any training in what's legal. They're going to shoot somebody. One of these idiots pointed into a crowd. They were just standing clearly 10, 15, 20 feet from him on camera. And they've given him a little bit of a hard time, but nobody was threatening him. Nobody was saying they're going to come over and kick his ass. They were just harassing him a little bit, jeering at him because they're wrestling on this guy. And he drops his gun like a dickhead, picks it up, points it at the crowd more than once. Anyway, lack of training in how to do their job, like how to be effective at it, how to handcuff a person without getting shot or punched in the face, how to do it legally, how to respect civil rights in the least is another thing they clearly don't know anything about or care about. They shove little old ladies to the ground, Matt. What are you trying to prove, buddy? They don't give a hot shit, and they're going to have any technology, any weaponry that they can possibly dream of. We're going to have monster trucks with freaking laser beams, Matt. I can't imagine the stupidity and the casual cruelty that's about to jump off when these guys get fully funded. Who needs 3 FBI's worth of that stupidity?
Yeah, and they don't need full funding. They don't need any funding, and they do it. If they can get a hold of a gun and a badge and a bulletproof vest for the look of it, then yeah, sure, they're going to point the gun to the crowd, and they're going to push over that old lady because she's a darn threat. She's a serious threat. Yeah, oh yeah, she could do a whole lot to you. She could hit you with her handbag.
Yeah, she might take one of your grenades from you, throw it at you.
Right. But it will take that. It will take somebody, it's going to take their crossing the line, and people will still support it. And worst of all, the people in government will continue to support it just to show that they're serious and they're going after those violent criminals, but they're just going after anybody they can get their hands on to make themselves look good or to for whatever their reason is. I don't think I really understand what their reason is, other than they get to look, dress military and do things. They're not, you're right, they're not trained, they're not ethical, they're not worried about the results of what they do, except, we'll double back to this, I think, a little bit later in the show too.
Yeah, there's something to say about it.
Absolutely. Fortunately, we can also go on to something more cheery. I don't know if we have that, the graphic of the global, the foreign news icon. Yeah, well, not quite yet.
No, that's not it.
This is for foreign news. So if there's something there that has like 8 different forms of the globe, there we go. We can call it international news because that's what's on the slide. You can call it anything your little old heart wants it to be called. But what's going on in some of the other parts of the world, something that I know is an issue near to your heart, which is France, and checking in on what's going on globally. We can look there because there's an issue with the prime ministers now in the more of a parliamentary system. There's the president, and that's Macron, and he gets to name someone to be prime minister. Now, back last June, there were elections, and the various parties on the left saw that there was a serious momentum with the parties on the right. So they got together, they combined themselves and worked together to get people elected who were from the left, and they wound up doing extremely well. They won majority in the equivalent of the House, the Assembly. And so, therefore, you would think, especially in a parliamentary system, that the person with the most seats gets to name the prime minister, and you move on. They got elected. They have their turn. There you go. But no, Macron said that he would not resign, but that he would name the prime minister and name somebody from the right scale, the right of the political scale, to be the prime minister. And it was kind of awkward. I mean, people were not certain what was going on. And what happened was he was able to be there. He was able to keep the seat for a number of months, but inevitably he couldn't get the budget passed, and he couldn't get things going through there because nobody wanted him to be there. So they wouldn't help him put together the coalitions needed to pass things. And so he had to go. But Macron, he stuck to his guns, and he brought in a second guy from the right who lasted a couple of weeks. And he was there, another prime minister from the right, and he was there for a couple of weeks. But same thing happened. He had to go. So Macron had a third chance, and he went once again to the right. He went to the parties on the right, and he picked out a guy to be prime minister. And I say a guy to be prime minister because I have no idea what his name was. Before I could even learn what it was, he was gone. He was gone in 14 hours. The rest of the parliament was just not going to take it. And so a guy who was named prime minister was out 14 hours later. So how they're going to get past this, or how they're going to take the next step, I don't know what it is with Macron wanting to pick up on the right so much. I don't know if he thinks he's balancing power or something, or if he thinks he's doing something that would benefit the country by this act of that explodes in his face. How many more times does it have to explode in his face before he gets the message and tries somebody else? Is what I'm wondering. And I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm a big fan of the French, as you mentioned. Love French culture, French language. I appreciate it. I like it. I try to keep an eye on French cultural events. I find their politics fairly impenetrable because I'm not a good student, Matt. And I was surprised and gratified at how comprehensive your description was, because it's a lot more than I knew. But I have been paying attention to this issue, and I want to say I thought, again, I defer to your superior grasp. I thought that the last prime minister was in office for 26 days, but was tossed out like the 14-hour figure you mentioned. I thought he was tossed out at 14 hours after trying to form a new government, something like that. Either that or there have been so many prime ministers that I've lost track. Either way, I want to ask the computer how many days in a Scaramucci. Do you remember Scaramucci?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He was one of the things he was most known for in his brief blip of time was how brief he served in Trump's cabinet. It was like 13 hours or 3 days or something like that. And so people have been measuring, if somebody was out in a week, that's like 3 Scaramucci's. And so that first came to mind. And he still seems to be a pretty slick little fish, but he's been seems to have been a pretty staunch critic of the Trump administration ever since. So if anything's to be said for karma, there's that. But the thing about France and the government, this cascading failure of the government, uh, it seems to coincide with a lot of social unrest, it does, because I think the one of the reasons the government's not getting it together is they're trying to be more austere. They're trying to raise the retirement age. They're trying to pull more from France's beloved systems that they depend on and enjoy. The government's trying to take it away because it costs money. uh, and so I've seen people lashing out. There's been the Block Everything movement, I think it's called. That's been, listen, in this country, you find your inspiration where you can. And I have been inspired by these folks. They're out there, they're making good trouble. Some cases, maybe bad trouble, I'm not sure. But at least they're doing something. They're united, they're active, they are slowing down gears that other people in society need to run smoothly. They're not suffering alone, they're not suffering quietly. I wish this country had a little bit of that. I wish we had a bit of that gumption that they're showing, that civic pride and activism. On the other hand, I'm glad that it hasn't come to violence. It hasn't come to destruction. That's one reason. It's the long game, though, because you see these people getting abused, for example, and it makes you want to act. It makes you want to get out there and get in an ICE agent's face. Anyway, reel it back in because I do tend to go a rambling. But I'm glad to see them making noise, making news, being seen, making trouble, causing trouble that maybe some rich person somewhere will feel, maybe some legislator somewhere will feel, and good for them. So I rejoice at that, if nothing else, for the inspirational factor.
Well, and you may have seen me looking down a little bit here, and
Mm.
that's because I was checking on a couple of things real quick. Firstly, the Scaramucci is an 11-day period, just to
Okay, there
set
you
the
go.
record straight on
I was selling him short.
that. And also with the issue of France, now I hesitate to, whereas you are interested in a student of France and its culture, I am not. In fact, I did take French in junior high school,
Attaboy.
which was where I was raised. You had a couple of years of a junior high before you went to high school.
Sure.
But I did so poorly in the class. The teacher came to me at one point and said, "You have done enough for me to give you a C in class.
Stop.
I'm going to ask that you, right, I will not discredit you in any way, but please don't raise your hand to answer questions. Don't worry about doing the homework. Just sit in the class. You're getting a C. You're done."
Wow. Wow.
And
A
so
truce was called.
exactly. That's my extent of dealing directly with the French culture. So I will hesitate to try to pronounce the names without knowing the
Matt,
rules.
what's French for you there? Stop that. I'm kidding.
All
I'm
I
kidding.
know is, all I remember is il crayon est grande.
There you
So
go.
my pencil is large, I believe is the translation.
Well, there you go, bragging.
Too good. What I can tell you is I have been looking at an article here on the situation, and it mentions the three gentlemen who have been prime ministers. All it will say in this article is that they served less than a year combined. So they're not designated. They're not saying the specific tenures of each of the three gentlemen.
Gotcha.
But they're also saying that this third fellow is trying to figure something. He's been given 2 days to put together some kind of coalition in the government so that they can address the budget issue, which is the hot button issue, and that They're trying to do it so that they don't have to call an election.
Gotcha.
The parliamentary system where that's exactly what's supposed to happen. That is supposed to trigger an election, and they're trying to do some deal so that they don't.
Hmm.
Although another a protege of Macron has said he no longer understands Macron and has called for the appointment of an independent negotiator to steer the government. So there's yet another twist. We'll see what actually happens. But within 2 days, Macron will have to, has said he will nominate a fourth person for prime minister. So we'll see how that actually plays out. Another international news is in other international news. The leader of Brazil has called on Trump to reduce the tariffs that are being put on Brazil. That is Lula, who I believe Trump was not a fan of when he was elected, I believe, and now Lula is trying to see if he can persuade Trump to reduce the tariffs against Brazil. We'll see how that works out. Maybe he should send him a golden calf. I don't know, something that would be bright and shiny and can be put in that new ballroom. And
yeah, he's already got a plane. He doesn't need another one.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The things he doesn't need.
Something in a nice boat.
So that is a news item. We'll see what happens with that. Try to follow along with that. And then, of course, another issue is Greta Thunberg.
Hold on just a second, Matt, before we go too far from now. Brazil, we put I read, if I read right, 40% tariff on them, right?
Right.
Why did we do that, Matt?
I think
wasn't it because Trump didn't like, this is how I've heard it said, maybe I'm wrong, again, I live to be corrected. Trump didn't like the way they were treating their former dictator who just got sentenced to, I think, was it 27 years in prison? And so he's disincentivizing, he's punishing that country for punishing that person, and he's trying to dissuade them from, do I have it right or am I crazy?
You're absolutely right. And they're trying to punish a traitor who caused an insurrection.
Well, with that in mind, if Trump and Lula are going to get together on this thing and make any headway, what do you think the ask is going to be? Take it easy on my buddy, right? I mean, so are we? I don't know. I guess we'll just watch and see if that's what's happened or what happens or is what's asked for. Is that your sense of it?
Yeah. It's. I don't know what else they can do. That would.
Yeah, what else do you have to offer?
Right. Maybe invite him to Mardi Gras. I think he'd like that.
Yeah. Let him dance it up.
Exactly. You can see the beads flying.
Yeah, that'll be great. Sorry. Anyway, thanks for letting me snag your coat on that. I just wanted to flesh that out because it's a little more of that meat on that bone.
Absolutely. I apologize for not throwing it to you there. So to move it to Greta, let's open it up right now and let me hear what you're thinking about that, and then I'll say a few words.
It has taken me a couple of years to come around to my current opinion as to the Gaza situation. It took me a long time to see that they're killing children and adults. Adults' lives are valuable too. They're killing adults, innocent civilians. And I hear, and anyway, that's gotta, just the numbers they're putting up. Anyway, it took me a while to come to that realization, and I've been reading online people who don't see it that way. And They just think all Palestinians, all Gazans are Hamas, or if they're not, they got it coming. And I just can't get myself to go that far anymore. And I think, I don't know, I feel like if anybody sits with it long enough, they come to that realization. And there's, as we've discussed, there's a ton of, this is a lava lamp of items and justifications and history, and you did this and they did that, and this is what's possible, and nobody can really be trusted. There's no purity on either side, but right now it seems like one side definitely has a decided advantage. Anyway, um, to me, what cements the deal as far as who do I sympathize with in this struggle? Because again, there's heroes are hard to find anywhere nearby it. Both sides have a lot to live up to, but when you see like reports of the Israeli forces, I guess, taking shots at people just trying to get to a truck full of food, or trying to fish, or not doing anything much at all, just existing. Journalists, ambulance drivers, they're not all Hamas. Anyway, and so I feel like it's into this. You get Greta and her 500 boat flotilla trying to show that this is wrong, that we are as harmless as you could be. We're out here in a boat. If I fall out of this thing, I'll drown. There's not, I can't run away. I am as helpless as I can be in the face of these massive forces, and I'm bringing some oatmeal. And before the entire world, before all the cameras in the world, you know who I am, you know who they are. Here I come with my oatmeal. Are they going to shoot me out of the water? They might. And that's the dare. That's the unspoken dare, I guess. Again, I'm not a very sophisticated international viewer. Maybe I'm missing a lot. But it seems to me she's coming in as pretty much as meek as you can. She's not smuggling C4. She's not bringing secret messages. She's not threatening anybody. She's just like, here's, my riverboat crew trying to float through and give some babies something to get them through the day. What's going to happen? Are they going to come down like the hammer of God and kill us all? They might. It's kind of, they're getting to be their brand, and they're not fighting that brand. They're not fighting that too hard. It's incredibly compelling. And so what do? They drag her off the boat and they rough her up. Apparently, she's, in the business of having eyeballs and cameras on her and drawing attention to issues that she cares about. She could easily jump up and down and make more out of this. Whatever happened to her, maybe it can't be overstated, but there's an opportunity if someone's really a limelight hog, and that's really the name of the game in this world, is clicks and likes and eyeballs. She could be chewing a lot of fat over this and saying they did this and they made me lick water off of the floor like they do here in America. And she's not doing that. She's like, yeah, I was abused. Anyway, this is still the problem. I find something noble about that. That's as much as I can come up with when I look at it and think about it.
Right. It's tragic situation, as you say. It's not one side that's all at fault, and it's not the other that's all at fault. It's not. It's a nasty little situation, and there's certainly nothing to. It's hard to defend either side, between the Israelis and Hamas, and then the people stuck in the middle. They're stuck in the middle. There's no
quite literally.
There's no way for them. Yeah, exactly, and they literally can't get out. And then there's that whole issue of that I brought up last week of, I think this is the end of the two-state solution. But what we do also have now, the latest, is that Trump has gone to Netanyahu and designed a 20-stage peace process that will bring peace to the world and to the Middle East, because I don't know, so he can have his name on the buildings when they're rebuilt or whatever. Don't
Yeah.
know what don't know what the extra step is, but he has offered this plan. Apparently, now he's claiming today, he's claiming that Hamas has signed on and they're moving into the first stage of the 20 steps or 20. I don't know what to call them. The
20 grift,
20,
20 grift
20 grifts.
solution.
The first grift of the 20 grift plan. Um, but if that is true, if they have accepted to move towards peace, and if they have accepted to do what it takes to move through a peace process, that would be a positive thing.
It would.
We'll
Listen, it would gall the shit out of me for Trump to have even one plausible scalp on his trophy board that he did something worthwhile and good. I would probably never sleep again at night having to admit it. But if it saves some lives, if I'll make room in my mental furniture for it, if I must.
Well, and we have to. There has to be a proof in things actually happening, and if they get through all 20 steps and bring true peace to the Middle East, then perhaps he does deserve a Nobel Peace Prize.
That's a lot of ifs for somebody who always finds a way to screw something up every time.
Well, I believe his record stands for itself.
It speaks for itself. That's right. Well said.
But I mean, here he's claiming it, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So there. That's where we are in the Middle East today, and we'll have to see how things play out for the rest of the week. And then, of course, we will touch on this next week's show. If there's actually, let's talk about another issue actually is going on domestically, which is changing things in the face of the United States, politically speaking, and that's the issue of all the states rushing to gerrymander their election districts. We have their congressional districts. We have a process where in the United States, there's been a process for many, many years that every 10 years after the census, you reshuffle your congressional districts. And with the upcoming elections in 2026 and 2028, apparently there's been enough of a verbal kerfuffle at the White House among the advisors there that they are truly concerned that they're going to lose the House, and that if you look at how things have played out, I think that's a real threat to them. And I think that there's a real reason behind it, which is most of the policies they pursued and how they pursued them. So what's happened is they've gone to a number of states and said, let's start reconfiguring the congressional districts now. We can do that and gerrymander things, and the 3 seats the Democrats need, we can move things around and they'll never get them. And as down in Texas, they did it first. That was the first cannonball out of the artillery on this issue. Just ahead of them sending their National Guard into into Illinois. But the political boundary speaking, they gerrymandered some districts, and they're trying to get a half dozen seats out of Texas, and California picked up on that and said, well, okay, you want a big state who can change some borders? Let's talk. And you want to do it for 5 or 6 seats? Well, tell you what, so can we. And so they have Proposition 50 that's coming up out on the West Coast. If you're a California voter, that is the proposition where they're asking the voters the issue. Should we do this? Should we not? If you vote yes on Prop 50 or agreeing to redesign the congressional districts. If you vote no on Prop 50, you're against the rearrangement of the political borders. We'll see how that comes out. But I think voting on that the early voting on that has already started, if I'm not mistaken. That the ballots have gone out, and you can request them by mail, and you can. So there's a portion of that that's already in motion, and there's a big push by some of the Democrats out there to vote yes on Prop 50. Since that, there have been a number of states who have come out. There's 3 or 4 other Republican states, Indiana and Utah and Missouri, who have all come out and said, "Hey, we're gonna jump in on this. We're gonna do that too." And then a couple of Democratic states, Maryland and New York, have said, "Oh, okay, well, there you go again." And so we're going to have to do it too. And so we'll see how many states decide to jump in on this mid-decade reapportionment of all the borders. And we'll see what the actual picture does. I guess there will be challenges, and so it will become like everything else nowadays, has to go to court to be resolved. And if it's resolved in one way, it will be called judicial overreach and activism. And if it goes the other way, they'll say, national heroes who have stood up for the right. But it's gonna take a little while, and it's gonna be very messy, I think. And also Florida has chipped in to say that it's gonna engage in this. Because how can you not have Florida engaged in something of this nature? What do you think of gerrymandering?
I'm a lot more for it than I used to be. I think it's about time. I think it's about freaking time. I feel like both sides do it. I keep hearing people acknowledge that, because you got to be sane and clear-eyed about this thing. But it really seems to me that the Republicans really enjoy it, and have leaned into it and have used it more, which is kind of a good thing, bad thing. On the one hand, it's bad because this is kind of cheating. You're not supposed to. It's against the spirit of our rules. The idea is you compete fairly. This is not that. On the other hand, it's good that they've done it in the sense that they've already burned up that fuel. They've already expurgated that resource. They've already juiced whatever state and districts they've juiced. They can't juice them anymore. They probably could more, but they've already profited from that. There's not much more cream to scoop off the top of that milk can. So in that sense, to what extent they've overdone it in comparison to Democrats, it's not something it's a resource that's already spent. So that's fine. On the other hand, to the extent they've done it more than Democrats, shame on the Democrats. Like I said, if your opponent cheats and continues to cheat, you also have to adopt that. Whatever strategy that was forbidden, you also have to adopt it. Otherwise, you're playing a losing game. And I feel like Democrats could have called it out more. And demonized it, and therefore build themselves a little pretext for doing it themselves, just to catch up. And indeed, you have to catch up. And I think we shouldn't be so squeamish in the face of especially in this administration, all the danger they bring. A regular Republican would do enough harm, but this is hell on wheels on steroids these days. So I feel like Democrats shouldn't be so slow to catch up. I feel like we've got a lot more power than we wield, and this is just another example. And thank God somebody's finally thinking a little bit outside the box. Just to catch up is not really. I don't feel like it's that bold. I don't feel like it's that innovative. I feel it's a better late than never. And when you get so starved for this kind of progress and competitiveness in this public sphere, it starts to really feel like something magical when it's really the bare minimum we should have been doing all along. And I'm glad to see. I guess the I guess Prop 50 is popular. I saw polls 54% for and like 36% against. So this seems like a novel idea to a lot of people, still slightly novel to me. So you never know how it's going to go. To pay any attention to politics recently or in the dim and distant past is to be disappointed and disillusioned. So I don't trust anybody to do what I think from my little vantage point in my little corner is the right thing. So for this to seem to be bouncing popularly, positively, I'm very grateful.
Well, and that is the name of the game currently is something becomes popular and the people who don't want it will start working on PR twists and seeing what they can do to undermine it and to change the opinions of the public. And we don't know what will happen because in politics a week is a lifetime, so things can change within that time dramatically. But as you say, that's the right. The fact that it is so popular when it's just being introduced and people are thinking about it and actually reading about it and sort of getting up to speed on what it is, I think that reinforces what you're saying. I think that it's saying that you got this is a game where you can't just sit back and moralize and think that you're going to get ahead. You're going to have to actually fight and you're going to have to do something. And we'll see, as I say, once it goes through the courts, okay, there'll be time to adjust and we'll deal with that as we get there.
Yep.
But right now is not the time to capitulate and then just sit back and say, tut tut, because it's gonna cause a lot of people a lot of pain just because you did.
It has caused. I mean, I would say I would go further and say it is causing a lot of pain. It's what got us here is this small thinking, watching things creep in the wrong direction, months and years until they're so far out of whack you can't imagine how to straighten them out. We should be better than that.
Excellent point. I'm with you. All right. Well, that brings us to speaking of how things have gotten where they are, and that whole discussion we had earlier, and the whole thing about the Overton window and shifting over, and things becoming more to the right, and are talking about ICE and how things have already gotten way out of control with that. And how do you put that toothpaste back in the tube? We are clearly advancing in the rise of fascism, and that whole ICE argument is part of that. People who get to run around with weapons and look military when they're not. Actually, that whole thing with Hegseth, one of Hegseth's big talking points to the generals to teach them what it is to be a warrior was
Still laughable.
Yeah, absolutely, totally laughable. But one of his big points was no fatties. There's a grave concern he has for fat soldiers and fat generals and what that does to the warrior ethos. And yet,
Yeah.
here we are with ICE guys running around, certainly not passing the high school gym class test. If they come across a row of tires, there's going to be not so much. Maybe that's a good way to get away from them. Throw down a bunch of tires and see what happens. But we're certainly
here I want to say I'm about 40 minutes from Portland, and here we've got donuts on fishing poles for them. That's one of our protests. We're so clever.
Well, right, too true. And I saw that. I think I saw pictures of the folks with the donuts on the sticks. holding them in front of those guys, whoever they are. Um, and I know another one at one of the holding facilities. There's a row of folks who are out there daily and not, the big protest is being there to recognize that the place exists, because it's a sort of, I don't know what to call it, black site or whatever you want to call it, where you're not supposed to know it and you're not supposed to identify it. And these people are not doing anything wild other than just meeting there. Some of them dress up in costumes, and I think there was like a line dancing or something. They were doing something over at the,
I didn't catch that.
yeah, they were trying to do something, and they didn't want to. They wanted to make certain that it was a peaceful demonstration, and they decided to just by being there show some protest. But that thing that's happening where the ICE folks are unleashed, not particularly maintaining any sort of legal, being held back by legal requirements and just going after people, as you mentioned earlier in the show, that throwing down a, a grandmother. There was a case here in New York where they wait in the hallways of the courts. So people come for their immigration status hearings, and as they leave the appointment or leave the hearing, there's a dozen people in the hallway ready to jump on them and drag them away. And one man's wife protested.
Justice, Matt. Drag them to justice.
Drag them to justice. Yeah. Certainly the dragging part is true. And actually, there was a candidate for the mayor's office, Brad Lander, who was on the group of people who were trying to help them get through the hallway, and they arrested him as well.
Yeah.
And hauled him off, and there was a big protest outside. And as he pointed out, he's sure he got roughed up a little bit. He got lost a button on his suit, but he's he's a guy, and he's a government official, and he had access to legal representation, and he was fine.
Yeah.
But he was worried for the people he was helping, because they don't have the legal representation, and they don't have they don't have the resources, the money to get the sort of the representation they need, and those folks are not so fine, and that's what this is about.
Yeah, and there are many of them.
Yeah,
they're so not fine. We don't know their names and may never.
Exactly. And when they get down to those kids and they're handcuffing kids and leaving them alone while they drag off their parents, those kids are not going to be fine either. And that's another tragedy of this whole charade. But the original point I was making was there was a woman who came out and they took her husband, and she protested. Of course, she didn't like it, and she was going to have her voice heard. She was going to say some things, and that was another case where they just, pushed her down and pushed her head first into the ground, or not ground, in this case, a laminated floor, and they did harm to her as well.
On the skull.
Yeah. So this clearly suggests that there's an issue of fascism here. We're in the second stages of it. It's beyond the beginnings. This is not what happens in democracies that are functioning, and it's certainly not something.
We're not wondering if. Now it's how far and how bad and how fast.
Right, and it will. I have no doubt that it will get far worse.
But Matt, I see these videos with the ICE, mostly with the ICE agents. It seems like someone has told them, go out there, kick some ass, show me how tough you are, something. So they've been given not just quotas for numbers of, heads to bring in, but I don't know. I see these people run up and unprovoked just attack people, mow them down, knock them down, pepper spray them. pellets to the head. Some priest got shot in the head. He got it a couple of times. That guy should just go stay home to rest up a little bit. But he got pepper sprayed, and he got a pellet to the top of his head from some jackass on a roof above him. He over there praying. Look, I find it a little annoying and ostentatious to pray out in public too, but you don't need to take a pepper bag to the head. Anyway, I feel like they've been instructed. I feel like people have been instructed. They don't just come out and hold a line. They don't just come out and take up a space. They come out, they release one dude, I think we talked about it, was like release the peewee. And so all these giant linebackers come out, and one dude a full head and a half shorter than all of them comes shooting through the front line and grabs somebody, and they drag him back. I mean, this guy, anyway, he was like a foot and a half shorter than everybody else, and just came out loaded for bear. Really wanted to show somebody something. I don't know. I feel like it's instructed. I feel like they've been told to do it. It's pernicious. It makes it that much again more evil. That okay, you understand the high school bullyiness of it all, but for someone, if that's the case, and I know I'm just perceiving this in my head right now. I don't know that it's true, but if someone's out there juicing them up, telling them go hurt people, go kick some ass, go mow them down, show daddy, how much you love him, whatever it is they're saying, that's the type of shit that should get you put into jail. That should be legally actionable, because you're influencing arrays of human beings, multitudes. You're not just one jerk at that point. You are empowering and magnifying the harm.
And another thing that I've seen in some videos is the tactic of one of the officers arguing with the protesters, and then slowly another one comes up and grabs him and starts walking him backwards, and a third one comes around and sprays pepper spray in someone's face who was arguing, because how can you possibly disagree with ICE agents? That's certainly illegal somewhere, I'm sure, or at least It's been talked about it being illegal, I guess. And so whatever they do, they're justified in doing. Speaking of videos,
yes,
I believe that we
do have some video. This is from Chicago a few days ago, and I just want to let people know it's loud and it's disturbing. This guy is obviously terrified. Anyway, I'm going to run a few minutes of video, and just so you can see an example of what we're talking about. So Matt, what strikes me about this video is the guy is obviously terrified. It's bad enough to get arrested and go to jail. It's worse to be grabbed up by these, whoever they are, knowing there's no accountability, not knowing if they're going to go to Alligator Alcatraz to get eaten by mosquitoes for the next 6 weeks and eat gruel and moldy yesterday's, garbage, or be shipped off to El Salvador. This guy doesn't know where he's going. He could be in any part of the world, and it's tender mercies. I cannot imagine being that guy. I cannot imagine. That's got to be hugely traumatic. Anybody with any compassion has to have some flavor of that watching this guy. And you can't fight back. They'll kill you. You can't fight back. There's nobody. There's no little old lady or no little old man who is too sympathetic for them to wrench their shoulder, break a bone, break. You may never walk right again after these idiots are done with you, because again, they haven't been trained to do this right, so they're going to do it wrong. They're going to do it hard, because that's apparently the only training they've been given that I can see is somebody told them to go out there and crack skulls. And so facing all of this, the immediate danger and the medium-term danger, where am I going to be next week? Nobody knows I'm here. You know what I mean? Nobody. Who's going to think to look for him? Nobody. You can't get a lawyer if you never existed. Anyway, I see all this and it just churns through my mind. And it's hard to it's hard for me to work with that.
There we go. Hi. Yeah, it's well, but here's the thing. I mean, what I see in this video is the community's response. And I know there are groups that are actually going out and talking to people about what you can do in this kind of a situation. In this one, make a lot of noise. And it wasn't immediate, but look at that guy. I mean, that guy is not just going with them. He is resisting, and the community is helping him. They're surrounding these guys. They're making a lot of noise, and they're I don't know what they're saying specifically, but asking who they are because they have masks on and they're not supposed to be wearing masks, asking for a warrant or whatever the things they're doing. They're being very loud and making certain that there is a response, that these guys know, and they're all standing back. They're not approaching them. They're not approaching the guys so that they feel threatened or that they need to use that weapons, using the weapons they have. But they are being loud and they are staying there. They're not just leaving so that they can complete their whatever it is they're doing to that poor guy. The one thing they're not doing is going after the violent criminals that they're supposed to be, or they're allegedly supposed to be doing. They're just grabbing anybody they can grab, and then letting them have to suffer through extradition or whatever it is that they can do to them. And like the fellow was just sent off to El Salvador, returned to America, and then was sent off to Uganda, to a facility in Uganda, all while he was an American, while he is an American citizen. So this is the sort of warning that we're well beyond being given, and showing that there's a real thing. But as you continue to watch their things are getting kind of kicked around, and they are not able to do just the quick shove in the van and walk away. I think that fellow just lost his walkie-talkie for a minute. Oh, look at that. I guess they felt that. Yeah, I guess they felt it wasn't worth whatever 30 pieces of silver they were getting for that guy. And off they go.
And there's so much to go through here, Matt. There's so much to pour through. Like, as you said, the civilians got in the way. That'll get you shot. These guys are packing guns and have zero except their ego telling them how to do their job. They're pointing loaded guns into a crowd, a non-threatening crowd. And I hear you talking about this. I don't deny anything you say. I don't argue with anything you say. It's just as you said. But the next time, those people were kind of in the way. They dropped zip ties. Somebody kicked them out of the way. And they got pretty close to these guys. These guys don't want you close to them. And some of them aren't going to have the self-control, again, because they're juiced up on who knows what. Is it coffee? Is it bad advice from the sergeant? Is it drugs? Is it pipsqueak complex from high school that they got to just kick ass, and this is their chance, their time to shine. All those things can go wrong, and I wish I knew what it was that tired these guys out, because how hard is it for two guys to grab one guy bodily and just throw him in the goddamn car? I don't think they're very good at their job. I don't think these people really got in the way. I think it's just two guys couldn't subdue a third without cracking him over the head and killing him, and they just didn't. I don't think anybody materially got in the way.
Tom, I gotta disagree with you on a couple of things. They didn't draw their weapons, and I don't think it's just because these guys happen to be good natured. I don't think it has to do. I think it's because the community folks were disagreeing. Oh well, now they're after me. Hold on.
You could have blamed that on the video.
Yeah, exactly. But they didn't draw the weapon, and the community members did not approach them. Yes, when that guy dropped his stuff, somebody got close enough to give it a good kick, and they pushed away. But he didn't approach the whoever these guys are. Now, you mentioned the sergeant tells them something or that. No, sergeant. These are not law enforcement. These are guys who have been hired for the day to look tough and to bully smaller people.
They gotta have some boss, though. Sergeant's the wrong word, but they gotta have some boss. And these guys are remarkably reserved for being hassled and heckled and actively trying to wrestle someone who won't be wrestled. Somebody else in this situation is gonna hurt civilians. I think the only thing I can think of is that people started to gather enough that a crowd will form. And once you have a crowd, bad things are going to happen to the people who aren't of the crowd. And they were worried about their own material safety. But even that, I would love to see these guys lose a fight. That's fine as far as that goes. But it's going to be used in the larger sense. They would love to drop the hammer on some city like Chicago. And if somebody's there protesting and these guys push down their grandma and some dude comes out and has a problem with it, it's on. One bloody nose, and this will be as a tinderbox waiting to happen. And I am stupefied that it hasn't gone bad yet. I'm thrilled with the people of Portland and their costumes and their donut poles. And these people here, nobody came just smashing through with a car. That could totally happen. And it's going to happen if they keep screwing around. You can't expect human nature and the random forces of inertia not to go bad eventually. And it freaks me out watching it. Every time I'm like, it's about to go down. And I go to full tilt boogie in my head and it's not good. And I don't know. Anyway, it's hard for me to watch and not think that is very uncomfortable.
It is scary, and I do agree with you on that. You're waiting for something to happen and something worse to happen. But like with this situation, we literally just watched a video where they just lost it, and they lost the bounty, and they just got to a point where they said, okay, this is not one we're going to win today, and we'll go try somewhere else, or we'll go get coffee and donuts and try again tomorrow, or whatever it is they need to do. That whatever these guys did, whatever calculation in their brain got them to say this is just no longer worth doing. I don't think that they were ever scared of the crowd. I don't think that they were even with people yelling at them. But look at that. I mean, these guys, the people are certainly being loud, but they're all 3-5 feet away. They're not attacking these two future criminals, future defendants,
right?
And they're still trying to get that one guy into the car, right up until they just figure that maybe he was far enough away from the car that they figured they couldn't do it. Maybe they just felt logistically they just were not gonna be able to, and I think it shows how unserious they are.
Agreed. Oh, they're a mess. Yeah, for sure. I just feel like it's those messy people who are going to be the first ones to go bad really big.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, obviously we will. And you do have a right. I mean, it's a numbers game. You have thousands of these guys all over the United States in every blue city you can get to. And then somebody's going to actually, the taller guy kind of looks fat. I don't know how he's allowed to be there as an ICE agent. Kind of looks tubby.
Yeah. Well, and I'd like to, since you mentioned it, that's a bit of a callback to the Pete Hegseth thing you mentioned earlier. And I am about the 7,000th person to point out that the commander in chief is the first in the chain of command that needs to get on the treadmill. I'd be remiss if I didn't say it. I know it's not original, but yeah, Hegseth needs to turn around and look behind him.
He's the first to tip the scales.
Right.
I
don't know what else to say about this that I haven't said. It's just continuously offensive to the eyes and to the moral sense.
Yeah, and maybe it just shows these Proud Boy guys will give it up if they are sort of non-violently resisted. If there's a challenge, enough of a noise, and enough of a support for our fellow citizens, that maybe that's the key. Maybe that's what needs to happen to get through these guys and get through what we're facing these days. So thank you for getting that video on. And I think that moves us along to our second segment, and that's Election Central. We were talking earlier about a belief that the 2026, there's people who say 2026 is not going to happen, the election is not going to happen. Well, they wouldn't be trying to stop you from voting if they really believe they could stop the election. So they've fallen back to that next, or a more familiar strategy of just trying to get people scared enough to not go out and vote. So I think that is an indicator that we certainly will have an election in 2026, and that 2028, the next presidential election, is going to be something, quite a show at the very least.
Count on that.
We'll see what actually shakes out as far as who a Democratic nominee will be. But right here we have Election Central. PolitiPod, in combination with Election Central, lets you know of upcoming elections. So, folks, these are, I try not to include results from previous. I have in the past slipped in a couple of results if it's a particularly noteworthy election, but try to just focus on the upcoming elections so that folks watching have an opportunity to either go vote or go register, or if they hear of a place where they're not, so they can't vote, but they know, that's a place where Aunt Betty lives, and I can give her a call and see if she's going to take care of getting out there to vote. My ex-roommate from college can give a call to and say, hey, I know you're in that town that I heard, are you going to vote? So hopefully it will just get that idea out that there are local elections across the country every week, that there's an opportunity somewhere for people to go to the polls and make their voice heard. But you got to do it. There's a big drop-off between the presidential election and local elections, possibly because presidential elections, every news station in the country is talking about it, so it's happening whether you want to or not. And the local stuff doesn't always get as much of certainly doesn't get as much coverage. It's only a local station or a local news paper that says anything about it. So you might not know it, but October 11th is a big day of voting down in the South. There's a lot of things going on in the southern region on October 11th. For Texas, the local elections are happening in particular places all across the state. You'll have to check your local listings for your municipality and school district to see if yours is the towns or is one of the towns in Texas that's doing it. And on top of that, most of Texas is talking about October 20th, which is when the early voting will begin for the general election in November. So some people are not looking at October 11th at all because they're thinking of the next thing. But please, I encourage you, if you live in Texas, get registered. And if you're in one of those towns where there's a local election, get to your polling place, go vote. And in Louisiana, they're actually, because they're local elections, there's all sorts of smaller within the counties or parishes. I should say the term that's used in Louisiana is that the parish has an election, and there are eight local primaries for local positions. Like your mayor and city council and auditor and assessor, and so up and down the local level of offices. There's 8 places that are having primaries on October 11th. In New Orleans, it's a mayor and 7 city council seats, 6 of which are actually contested. But there's also, as I mentioned, there's a sheriff, the assessor, clerk of criminal district court, and a city charter amendment. So there's a lot to vote on. There's a lot to have your vote about. So go vote. Can you put up that Louisiana? There we go. So you see, it's not the entire state, which is part of the issue. You're not going to hear a lot of national news talking about it necessarily, but these local elections are happening. 8 of them have those local elections. 15 parishes have only propositions, only have ballot questions to vote on, no positions. And then there's another 8 of the parishes that have both things, that have local seats and some kind of proposition or ballot question on. And that shows you also that polls will be open on the 11th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Local time in Louisiana. So, as I've mentioned, I think once or twice, this has been a Election Central report. There's elections happening somewhere across America every week. Get registered. Go vote. All right.
Absolutely.
On to, you mentioned him once or twice, I think, Trump. And
Who?
some guy.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Wouldn't that be great?
I'm looking forward to the day.
So we mentioned earlier, and you mentioned last week, that he was going to have to wind up bailing out the farmers, and that's going to happen this week. He's going to present that now, I assume, a stunning idea that he had all along. Frankly,
He's
as
a
you
brilliant
pointed out,
businessman, Matt. Brilliant. He's got a big brain.
It's exactly, farms are the casino of the Middle West. But so this week is when he's going to officially open that up, just like he did, as you pointed out, the first term. He wound up setting up a bailout for the farmers, and they may not like it, but they'll take it. And we'll see how the issues of tariffs plays out. With the shutdown, a very serious thing that needs to be taken a hard look at and involve in discussions. Well, he went golfing. He wasn't going to stick around and wait to get into all that talking business. And one other issue was that it's been announced that there were a dozen Republican senators whose information on their calls and their communications were looked into after January 6th, and it wasn't the actual what even one of them has conceded is that it wasn't detailed manuscript or transcripts of the calls, that it was just what's called the metadata. So it's
Right.
kind of like this call was made at this time, and
Who
not
called who and when,
necessarily
how long it was.
exactly all the stuff you can find out by looking at a digital record without getting into the details. But so 6 of them, a half dozen or a dozen, were looked into, and so that fact has been revealed after the January 6th insurrection, where supporters of um, Trump were given the go-ahead to march on to the Congress, and whether the circumstances were that it became quite violent, and there were police officers actually killed, some who committed suicide days later, and the building was roughed up, glass broken, things knocked, destroyed. The famous issue of some of the protesters using the halls and the offices for bathrooms. So that is more information has come out about that. It's not clear if those senators are particularly concerned. And so, what do you think? What do you think of the Trump stuff?
I mean, he's going to bail out the farmers. Just a few farmer videos I've seen in my lefty bubble, and I've unfollowed as many right wingers as I can because there's just no point. Those videos are devastating. They can't all be paid agitators. They can't all be underground Antifas. And it's devastating. They're not selling. They didn't sell one soybean to the Chinese. Not one bean. And these guys were set to sell billions and billions of dollars worth of beans to these. I mean, they got the beans in hand, man. So, yeah, of course he's going to have to bail them out, or they're all going to drive up there in their tractors and pull them out of the White House by hand. So, yeah, of course he's going to do it. And enough people will get their palms greased. But the difference between having customers and a sugar daddy is good years and bad years. Customers come and go, but you'll keep a lot of them. One sugar daddy goes bad on you and it's over, son. It's better to have customers. And I think they know that, but not as well as they're gonna.
Right. And then what
There's
do they
nobody,
actually do?
there's no constituency he won't screw over hard. And their turn's coming. This is close. It's going to get closer. So, cash a check while you can, Grandpa, but I wouldn't count on it. And yeah, golf. I mean, this is not a guy who works at the golf course. He's not out there making deals and twisting arms. He's out there goofing off. So yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't know if you are. The senators being investigated. I mean, okay. It sounds like we got as close to confronting powerful, rich white people in authority as we ever do. And anytime we get anywhere near it, the other side is going to scream bloody murder and immediately upgrade it to terrorism. So at least it means nothing to me until we have the House again. And that seems such a faraway dream. I've got plenty of time to dream it. So it leaves me a bit cold. It leaves me a bit disgusted with where we're at. When we did have the ability to prosecute people who needed it, we didn't. Is it even going to be better next time, Matt? You didn't think you'd see a second Trump turn after that mind-blowing fiasco of several years ago that ended with a plague. For the love of Mike, did you ever think we'd be that stupid, that brainstem numb, to let this idiot back into the White House for another stab at it? No, I didn't think so. Do I have a lot of faith in what's coming? God willing, inshallah, we'll get a hold of the House again and more, and eventually recover a lot of what's been lost. Do I think they're going to, all these rich people who still can barely bothered to get up off their ass in the face of just burning devastation all around them, do I think they're going to turn over a new leaf? I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't feel good about it. I wish we would I think we just have to get rid of, I think we have to usher out a certain layer of people and usher in another certain layer of people. You know, David Hogg, he's got time on his hands. Some of these other up and comers, I feel like we should start farming them in. People who are frustrated, the people who would have normally taken the baton from the gerontocracy, who have been shunted, we should unshunt them. Anyway, until that happens, it's going to be the same old get along to go along to get along. It's a big club and you ain't in it, as to quote George Carlin. So I'm pretty pessimistic, but you never know what can crack open. So I maintain just enough of a sliver of optimism to drive me absolutely crazy.
Yeah, right. Fair point. Fair point. We'll see how it plays out. For the last big issue, what I'm going to suggest is that we do sort of a quick fire version. So I'm going to mention a couple of points of what's happened with the Supreme Court.
All right.
It's just about starting their new term. And we'll just throw out a couple of issues real quick, do a quick fire, couple of seconds response, answer and call-in response. So first off, the Supreme Court has declined to restart Laura Loomer's RICO suit against social media, including Meta and Twitter. And at the same time, the Supreme Court has forced Google to make reforms to its app, to how it runs things, and the information in it. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think anything you decline Laura Loomer is a good thing. I think we should decline to let her out in daylight. She just seems so pervasively wrong-headed. That's it. Boo Laura Loomer is apparently all I can muster about that. When it comes to Google and apps, I'm afraid I have more thoughts about a different issue that's similar, and that is, and I forgot to bring this up earlier about the ICE thing. Google and Apple have both removed ICE tracking apps from their Play stores or from their virtual cabinets, and that sucks. That sucks out loud. Because one of the things people could do was network. So I'm really sad to see that from both Apple and Google. I don't know. It'll get done other ways, I suspect, but it's pretty sad. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
Let's jump to the next one, Trump's expansion of presidential powers. You may have heard that Stephen Miller used the term plenary power, that he cites the U.S. code that has some language of that nature, where he's interpreting it as that gives the president monarch's power.
Yeah, and all of it. Plenary meaning all of it, from the Latin, all of it.
Right. And even he, when he said the words, and then he literally stopped dead in his own tracks. He just wouldn't even say anything in the actual interview because he realized, perhaps because he realized he'd really let the cat out of the bag, or perhaps he was just amazed that he
What mystery
was that
remains?
dumb.
Hey, Matt, I think they're trying to amass power for themselves. Am I a genius? I'm not Nostradamus. I don't
Well,
know. I
and
don't get it. Like some people, I've heard them suppose that, and it really looks like someone shouted into his earpiece, Stephen, shut the hell up right now at all costs. I don't care if you look like Mitch McConnell, an oil painting of Mitch McConnell immediately. Don't say another word. We have snipers in place. Don't say anymore. You've gone too far. What's too far for this administration? We're going to be grinding up children for meat. I wouldn't put it past them. If I saw that in a headline tomorrow on Axios.com, I wouldn't flinch. It wouldn't break stride. It's ridiculous. How, and I don't know. I mean, the Supreme Court has fairly signed off on it. What does Stephen Miller have to worry about? Because it's a word. Plenary. Is it the word plenary? I don't know if that. I don't know what gives these people pause. Why would this? There's nothing they won't do. If he ate a live cockroach on TV, I would be like, yep. There's nothing. I don't know why plenary would give him pause. I don't know why anyone would shout into his earpiece, Stephen, you've said too much. They've already kneecapped Congress. There is no Congress. Trump is striking down funding. He's making war on fishing boats on a goddamn 12-person fishing boat. He's declaring war. What does he need Congress? There is no Congress. He is exhibiting plenary power. He's doing all the government stuff. He's all there is anymore. The sun rises and sets on his fat head. And why would Stephen Miller, the sexual matador, why would he go stock still? I don't know what could possibly give him pause. I don't get it. I don't understand any of it. It makes me feel very dumb, but also very glad that I don't understand people like this.
Well, and you're forgetting Trump's war on America. I mean, he's sending military-style troops or
Black Hawk helicopters on innocent people. Just a whole big cracker box full of people, yanking them out and tearing up their apartments. What boundary remains? What makes these people shrink back in the dead of night besides wokeness? So I don't know. I don't understand why Stephen Miller took a deep breath. It's not like it's a secret.
Here's another issue, another story that's come out from the courts that Jacob Chansley, you may recall, the QAnon shaman who had a certain flair in his costuming for the January 6th insurrection, which he was a participant in, and then ran for Congress.
Dude's fuzzy hat game was without compare.
Once pardoned from prison by Trump, he did run for Congress. He did not win. And now he's filed a case against Trump. Apparently, his claim is that Trump and Musk and Israel and Warner Brothers have conspired against him. And he's asking in damages $40 trillion. Trillion.
It's because he couldn't spell bazillion, kubal, billion.
I think Trump will probably give him some kind of medal of freedom,
right?
just for thinking up of trying to get people to pay trillions to him instead of Trump's mamby-pamby getting people paying him millions, just due to lawsuits. And one last thing for the courts. The SCOTUS has refused Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal on her sexual crimes against girls. So the refusal of the appeal is, hey, there's something that's good. She's going to continue to be in the minimum security place that Trump has shifted her to for some odd reason, just around the release of the Epstein papers. What do you think?
I mean, it's slow motion absurdity, and it refuses to stop. He can't. Nobody will ask him why. Why are you giving her the kid glove treatment? If you'll forgive the phrase. Poor choice of words. He can't defend it. Having her there and giving her a break, and he acts like he's not getting away with anything, and we fall for it. I don't understand. I mean, it's like that scene in the Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy movie, where the big tough guy, for comedic effect, there's this little piece where he says, "I'm standing so still, I'm moving so slowly that I can't be seen," and then people walk by and like, "Hi, I see you." It's the same thing with him and this Epstein thing. He's like, "Oh, I might have to talk to the DOJ about pardoning her." Wait, why? What is there to talk about? A, you hold the strings. You're not waiting for anybody's permission for a goddamn thing. Just do it. Second, what is there to talk about? Anyway, it makes no sense, and he's acting. And I don't know how we let this go on, but we're acting like he's pulling it off. He's not pulling it off. I'm not fooled.
Fair point. Matter of fact, if there were a count up, looking at the Epstein count up, we have a record of how many days this has been going on, that he's gotten away with it. And there you go. Days since the unredacted Epstein list has not been released. We are at day 3,767. And counting.
And counting.
I don't see it happening in the next week or two, but we'll see. We'll keep track of it for you. Tune in here at PolitiPod Live for your count up of when the list has not been made public.
I keep reading we've got one more Democratic congressperson in there for the vote, so good things may be coming down the pike.
We'll see if Johnson can't keep the House out so that they can't install her to her seat. We'll see how long he can get away with that. And when they get back to work, what does happen, and maybe we'll see something, and hopefully eventually the unredacted version, and stop sort of playing around with it. Well, thank you for joining us for PolitiPod Live for political talk. And if you want to have a political laugh, you can join Tom and myself and a handful of our friends who have a podcast called PolitiPod, soundcloud.com/PolitiPod, where we do sketches, one-liners, and of course you'll also find Election Central there to let you know of when local elections are happening, when a bunch of different elections are happening. This is, I'm Matt Nisanoff.
And I'm Tom Bickle.
Thank you for joining us, and good night.